I wasn't gonna make this video, but I just got off a call with somebody and they were making so many excuses to why they weren't successful. Now, I was just finishing some work over here in my office in Vietnam, actually. Fun fact, a lot of people still think Vietnam is like a jungle and developing country. But look at that is insane. But anyways, like I was saying, I just did get off a call. And the person I was talking to was someone that I thought had a lot of talent. You know, they can pretty much be successful in anything if they really put their mind to it. Now let me go ahead and set my camera down real quick. So the thing is, there's a lot of people who have amazing talent and they'll think of themselves very highly, like, oh, I can do this, I can do that, I can start a business. But when it comes down to actually putting in the work and getting their hands dirty, all of a sudden they're just full of excuses. And to me, that's actually crazy, because now with the internet, being able to work online, and even with AI, it leveled the playing field completely. So anybody can be successful in anything if they really put their mind to it. Yet I see all these people that go to fancy universities, they'll have 2 master's degrees, and yet they just cannot even do the basics of sending a cold DM to 100 people. It boggles my mind and genuinely bothers me, which is kind of why I wanted to make this video, to maybe vent a little bit, get it off my chest, but also share the experiences and these conversations I've been having with my clients, my friends, and even my team on why they're getting in their own way of success. Because nowadays, you don't have to ask a gatekeeper for permission. You don't need to be so connected or born into a rich family. You can literally start from nothing and build something and make something of your life to be able to live the way you want, travel the way you want, do anything you want. But why? I mean, we all want this dream. Everybody wants to be able to travel the world like me, right? And like live in Vietnam and build an online business. But why is it that most people fail? In fact, probably I would say 95% of people who try to break into this industry fail. And I will tell you exactly why based on my perspective. And I will also show you, in my opinion, what you can do to make sure that you don't end up falling into these same habits, making the same excuses like everybody else, so that you can actually build the life that you want. Now, in my opinion, the first reason for why a majority of people fail is really just because they have this fear of failure. Now, everybody knows the surface level fear, which is, oh, I'm afraid of what other people are going to think about me if I fail. Okay, like everybody knows that. I'm not even going to talk about that. But the real failures, or the real thing that stops people, is not the opinion of other people, actually. I've realized it's the opinion of oneself. Because we all live our lives and we identify somewhat of a winner, right? Nobody wakes up every day and looks in the mirror and say, I'm a loser, right? We think highly of ourselves. But here's the thing, because we think so highly of ourselves and we don't want to lose, oftentimes we tend to not do the risky thing. We play it safe. We put ourselves in positions where we cannot lose. And I'll give you a perfect example of this. One of my friends has been making YouTube videos for the last 6 months, right? Going hard on it every single week, making 1 or 2 videos a week, which is great, right? Volume is there. And he's talking about a topic that he's still learning about. He's not quite an expert, but he's putting out content, he's getting views, he's getting subscribers. And then I asked him, hey man, like, that's great, you're posting and all, but like, how much money are you making? And he said, I'm not making any money. So I'm thinking to myself, like, well, you're making all these videos and you're not talking to them on the phone, you're not selling anything. Like, is this a hobby or do you want to make this into a career? He's like, no, I want to actually make money from this. And I said, well, why don't you just ask for money? Why don't you sell for something? Now, at this moment, this is where all the excuses came. Oh, I want to make more content before I want to be an authority. I don't know what to sell. Oh, I feel like if I take their money, what if I can't deliver? Just excuse after excuse after excuse. Now, this is my boy, man. This is my friend, right? So I'm not hating on him, but I'm just saying, like, instead of just creating an offer and just selling it and like putting his calendar link into the description, he just doesn't sell at all. He just keeps making this video, right? These videos and just playing like a nice guy. When in fact, he actually wants to make money. He's just too afraid to ask. And the reason for why I've realized most people are too afraid to ask is because they fear rejection. They fear that they're not going to live up to the promises that they make, so that they never give it a shot. And so I put it to him this way. If you don't put yourself in a situation where you're trying something new and you could possibly fail, what is your chance of success? And the answer is 0. If you don't try, literally, your success rate is going to be 0%. So by playing it safe, you're not going to win at all. And by taking the risk, maybe you lose and you get rejected and you feel bad about yourself for a day, but at least you have a shot to make it. It's very similar to, let's say, approaching girls, like at a cafe or something, right? So these days, from what I've noticed, I'm taken now, right? So I'm not single anymore, but I observe. I would say the best place to meet girls these days is, physical activities, running clubs, pickleball, meeting them randomly at a cafe and just approaching them and saying hi, right? I met my girlfriend at the gym, just cold approach. Hey, how you doing? I'm Patrick. What's your name? Versus, doing dating apps and all that kind of stuff, right? And I noticed that for some guys, they want to talk to the girl, but they're so afraid. They're so afraid of rejection, right? They'll be like, oh yeah, she's pretty, but I'm just not really feeling it, and whatever excuses just pop up, right? And I'll ask, my friends who are in this situation, I'll say, well, if you knew they liked you, would you talk to them? They'll be like, oh yeah, 100%. Okay, well, then why don't you go find out? You see, but now they have to be put in a place where they can actually lose. They leave their comfort zone. And the moment they do that, they just run away. And so this is actually the fear that stops people from starting a business, investing into a program, or just doing something new, like let's say quitting their job. It's because they're afraid to not only feel the wrath of everyone, saying negative things if they fail, but they also don't want to look like a failure to themselves. And the reality is, especially if you're trying to get into entrepreneurship, you will fail a majority of the time. Me personally, every new thing I try, I would say there's a 60 to 70% chance it's going to fail. And I know that going in. So when I, let's say, work on a new project, I'm expecting no sales. I'm expecting people not to like it, but I'll figure it out over time and iteration. That's just the nature of entrepreneurship. Really, in entrepreneurship, once you learn how to make money, you'll be able to do it forever, right? Because it's that mental barrier of just trying that stops most people. The reason why everyone has this idea of, oh, one day I will start a business is because, the end result of having a business and having freedom sounds great, but they just stuck at that point where they hit the rejection. So you have to let go of that fear. Now, another reason for why a lot of people just don't find success is straight up because they're lazy, okay? Now, you might work hard in school and do a test or whatever, right? But when it comes to actually doing the work, I find a lot of people just don't do it. So I'll give you a perfect example. If you're running a business, let's say it's coaching, consulting, or any kind of service, right? A lot of the game is actually sales. You have to be able to get a meeting with somebody and close them on the phone or on a call. So in order to get the sale, what do you have to do? It's either you make a bunch of content and people come to you, or if you're not making any content, you have to go to them. Cold emails, DMs, cold calls, things of this nature, right? And I would find people that I'm trying to help, they'll go to really good schools, Ivy Leagues, schools in America, right? And then when it comes time to send 40 DMs a day, they just don't do it. I remember this one particular person, I was helping them out. And they were doing cold messaging people on LinkedIn, right? And in my opinion, what they were selling wasn't good. So I told them hey, you have to change your offer. I don't think anyone's going to respond. That's first of all. Second of all, you need volume. You need to talk to a lot of people to figure out what they want, right? So this person just comes to me and says, oh no, I think my offer's good. I'm going to just send the DMs anyway. And I'm like, okay, well, give it a shot. Let me know how it goes, right? But I'm telling you, I wouldn't respond to that. And then, so this person, after a couple months, they sent some messages, right? And then they came back to me 3 months later. They said, oh, Patrick, cold DMs don't work. And I said, okay, well, I know that's not true because it works for me. It works for many other people, right? So it just doesn't work for you. That's the thing. So I'm asking questions now. And I say, okay, how many messages did you send? They said, 300. So I'm like, okay, in 3 months, you said 300 messages. That's 100 a month, which is 25 a week, 25 messages a week. That's 5 a day. And your offer, what you're selling sucks. So you're not even doing enough volume and the offer's bad. Of course, it's not going to work. So it's crazy to me that this person, instead of like, they had such an ego saying, oh, like I know what my market wants. They obviously did not. And they didn't even put in the work. Like if you didn't even send 1,000 messages, don't even talk to me. 300, like if I was doing it, I would send 300 in the first 3 days. We're talking 3 months, right? And so that's just the nitty gritty of it. Like people say it's repetitive. You have to do it over and over. It's brainless. If it was so brainless, why can't you get the result? It's insane to me. And it's even crazier that people are like, oh, I want to automate everything, right? I want to get these meetings by sending out, automated emails and LinkedIn DMs. And it's like, bro, take a step back. You can't even get a meeting manually sending it, customizing everything for that specific person. If you cannot even do that, you can't even book one meeting like that. What's automation's gonna do? You're just gonna send more bad emails and messages at scale. It's crazy. People think they're hard workers, but when it comes time to push and shove, they just don't put in the work, and they live in denial. They just don't want to do it because it's too painful, and that's where they quit. That's where they give up. And it happens all the time, especially to people who are, considered smart in their family or in their school or whatever, or they're considered talented. They didn't have to work that hard to get the grades that they got or get the job that they got. And a lot of jobs are like not even that hard anyways, right? You just do the same thing every day. So, but once they get exposed into entrepreneurship where they're not protected by the brand of a company that already does so much revenue that any person in that spot would have done the same thing. Once they're not protected by their family, they're not protected by the school, but they're put into the real world and they have to ask for money from real people and they have to risk getting rejected every single day. They get slapped in the face because they were living in a delusion, a protected world. And that's why I love entrepreneurship, because nowadays with the internet and AI, it's skill-based. It's all about how charismatic you are. It's about like actually doing the work. You can't just BS your way all the way. Yeah, I guess if you were born into a rich family, you can. But if you're starting from scratch and you're building on your own, there's nowhere to run. There's no one to hide behind. You have to actually put in the work and everybody will see it. And that's the thing that most people don't understand when it comes to finding success. Yes, it's going to be hard, but that's the whole point. If it was so easy, everyone would do it and get the reward. Now I want to talk about ego. And this is by far, I think, is the biggest thing that stops people from their own success. So ego to me is when somebody thinks they're better than they are and they refuse to take feedback from other people that are critiquing them, even if they mean it in a positive intention. And I'll tell you a story about this. I've trained with a lot of salespeople in my career, right? Especially like early stage sales reps, and some of them even work for me. Now, it's interesting because when I have them do like sales development work, like setting up meetings, they'll have their own perspective on things. They'll say, oh, like I'm good at sales. I know how to get the meetings. Like they talk a big game, right? And I'm like, great. Like if you're talking a big game and you're earning commission, you're helping the company make money, do your thing. I'll leave you alone. Please print for us. And it's crazy because they'll talk so much, but when it comes to actually doing the work, I'll look at the messages they send. It's trash. Just generic, copy and paste, not personalized, low IQ, low EQ, just everything is just bad, right? So I'll just come in and be like, hey man, we've actually been selling it pretty well before you joined the company. And here are all our old messages and how we booked so many meetings in the past and closed these guys. Let me give you our templates. Let me, copy and paste and screenshots all the good conversations. And let me explain to you the psychology of how we actually get the meetings. And I'll even make you a Loom video to explain the whole thing so you can watch it just in case you didn't get it the first time, right? So I'll give all this to the person. And then they're gonna say, oh no, I'll do it my way because I'm so good. I'm like, bro, we've already been succeeding at this. It's a formula at this point. All you have to do is follow the instructions. Like you don't have to add your own spin to everything, And a lot of times, not just one person, multiple people, they will have this attitude as if they know what they're talking about, as if like I've been selling it for like 10 years, right? And they're coming in on their first year and they're somehow no better than me. Okay, I guess. Especially when it comes to our own product too. That's kind of strange. And I'll be like, okay, let's give it like a week or two. Let's see what you got. Maybe I'm wrong. And then they do the work. Then we review it. And every day I look at it, I tell them it's not good. They keep doing the same habits. Then after a week or two, I'm like, look, bro, I mean, we're giving you everything you need here, right? And you're just not getting the results. And so when time passes, right, call it a week or two, they have nowhere to hide, right? Especially in sales where it's commission-based. You cannot say the product sucks because we sold it before. You cannot say nobody books meetings with us because we've done it before. It's just that this particular person cannot do it. And by the KPI, we look at how many meetings you booked, right? If you book no meetings, then you're failing. And you cannot blame anybody else but yourself. And this is the crazy part, because even when it gets to this point, and this person in a way kind of feels back into a corner, right? Because they have nowhere to run. A lot of times they still live in denial. They still make excuses to, oh, it's this or it's that, it's the product, it's the time zone. Excuse after excuse after excuse. But the only person that they don't blame is themselves, ironically. And so instead of pointing externally to why you don't have the things you want in your life or why you didn't achieve success, why not look internally? Because maybe it is you, and it most definitely is actually. Because most of the time, if we're not where we want to be, the only person actually stopping us is ourselves. It's always ourselves. It's not the market. It's not Trump. It's not the economy. It's not because your boss sucks. It doesn't matter. You always look at yourself for the answer. That way you could remain in control of your own life. If you start blaming other people, then you give up control to whatever that other thing is. And that other thing doesn't even care about you. So they're not even going to help you achieve your goals anyway. So now that we understand these issues, how do we take action and not be like these guys? How do we drop our ego, not be lazy, and not be afraid to fail? And I'll tell you from my personal experience, what I did when I quit my 6-figure tech sales job, basically left it all with no income, but I had some savings, moved to Thailand. I'm in Vietnam now, by the way, but I started in Thailand and built an online business. But it was not easy in the beginning, because I'll tell you, the first year I lost all my money. And let me tell you how it happened. So that first year when I moved to Thailand, I felt free. I felt great. Everything was, good, because I wasn't really feeling the San Francisco life anymore, tech sales. I wanted to build my own business. When I moved to Thailand, I tried to do many different ideas. I tried to do apps, tried to do like social media stuff. Then I was running out of money, so I moved back to my parents' home after 6 months of traveling. It was a fun time, but then I needed to make money, right? So to lower costs, I moved in with my parents. I was tired of traveling. And I tried to start a pop-up ice cream store, which was a horrible idea. Like, can you imagine this? I remember that pop-up ice cream store. I would go to these events selling these matcha ice cream, right? And working 14 hours days to sell these ice creams, managing a staff of like 7 people. And you know what was the worst part of this? Like, first of all, a lot of people at the time didn't, it was so hard to get people to buy my ice cream, first of all, because I had no business doing food and beverage, right? The second thing was, every event I went to, I was actually losing $1,000 to $2,000 every single event. So it was rough. So my entrepreneurial journey wasn't like a smooth sailing, like I quit my job and I became successful. I failed and failed and failed and failed. And I'm sure everyone looked at me like, oh, wow, he's a loser, right? Even for myself, I kind of felt like a loser too, because I left it off to give myself a chance. So imagine working my ass off, losing $1,000 to $2,000 every time I go to an event. Like, what was the point of even doing that? I might as well just not go and not lose money, right? But and every time I would lose money, and I basically lost all my money trying to do these kind of businesses, I never blamed anybody else. I never blamed the event. I never blamed that the venue was too expensive. I never blamed my staff. It was always on me. And I knew I could always figure out another idea. And so by the time I got to my last $200, I came up with the idea of creating content online, specifically on how to sell, because I knew how to sell back then and I just had to teach it online. And the moment I put out my first product, it worked and I made my first $1,000 online. Had I blamed my externals, there's no way I would have succeeded. Had I been lazy, there was no way I would have even went through with any business idea. I went through with them and they all failed except the last one, right? But I had that work ethic to try something for an entire year and fail straight before I found some success. Now, I'll leave you with this. If you're someone that feels like you have a lot of potential, but you're just not sure which direction to go, you have to understand that right now, it is the easiest time to start a business. You can literally start anything tomorrow and become an expert tomorrow. It just takes time and effort and the right intentions. But in order to succeed, you have to let go of your ego. You have to learn new skills. You have to not be lazy, and you have to be okay with failing, because that's part of the game. Now, if you are actually interested in kind of doing something similar to what I'm doing, which is creating content, monetizing, signing clients, and being able to travel and live wherever you want, similar to how I'm in Vietnam right now. I'm helping people do this through our program Founder X, where we essentially help people build their personal brands from scratch. And also, once they have a personal brand, they have a following, we show them how to monetize it, selling high ticket programs. But if you want to learn more about that, you can check out our website, founderx.net, and book a call directly with our team to learn more about how we can maybe help you. So I put a link in the description if you want to check that out. If not, no worries, check out other free videos I have on my channel. And I'll leave you with this. You can have anything you want in this life, but you just have to have the courage to get it. The courage to start that business, the courage to talk to that girl, the courage to give yourself permission to fail and try new things. And once you find that courage inside of you, you will be unstoppable.